Can y'all hear me? Have I got sound? I don't know if y'all can hear me or not. Can y'all hear me? Have I got sound? Okay, thank you, Jen. Bye, Bridget. Have a good day. Still learning how to do this. If I can add something to it, they got the path coming right toward me for right now. And we're getting the outer rain bands of the storm now. That's what we're getting. Powers done went out one time. Thank you, Jen. And I picked this property out to where I can park an 18 wheeler on it when I was an over the road truck driver. Is the main reason I got this big of a piece of property. There's 6 acres with six pecan trees at the front, and my dog's wanting to play, so you might hear him growl every now and then. And I'm not really in the mood to play. Can y'all spread the word for me? I'll try and get it back up to where I can tell everybody. You might hear me cough a little bit, and I apologize. Finally got this thing going. Just notifying a few more people. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the timeline of when this thing's going to hit me. From what I'm gathering, it's going to be around anywhere from 12 Eastern Time to 5 p.m. I haven't looked at an update. What I might do is get an audio going of where the storm might be headed. And I do not know how long the power is going to stay on. So yeah. And you see the mini blind, one of the strings broke. So I had to fix it the way I could fix it. So it is what it is. You ought to see my dog. Toby, he's trying to figure out, who in the hell are you talking to? There's nobody here. Well, how's everybody doing? I hope you're having a good day. And I got to figure out how to turn slow mode off. If anybody knows, can you please tell me? Don't start whining, Toby. You can't go out in the rain, dog. Throat's dry. Ooh. Only thing good about this storm, it gave me a chance to clean up my house. And I got it cleaner than it's been in a while. Y'all bear with me. I'll get this chat crap figured out. I had to go through my OBS to get the stream up. It was asking for an encoder, and I'm going, what in the hell is an encoder? And that's what lets your live stream happen with chat and everything. So, yeah. But I figured it out and got it going. So I figured I'd kind of rig the camera up to where it could be up high over that screen in the window and you could see what's going on. The wind now isn't that bad. It's only 7 miles per hour. The highest gust that I've had here is 13 miles per hour. I've got a weather station. You can see that and a monitor of it over there spinning around. On the pole, the wind's done bent the pole over, so I'm going to add some mods. I'm going to start going live more, getting my courage up. So y'all bear with me on the mods. Got John for right now. Mary, excuse me. Mary's live streaming. If y'all can spread the word about it and hit that like button for me, I sure would appreciate it. You might hear me emptying my pipe. Yeah. I just wanted to let you guys know in some way that I'm okay. And I'm probably just going to leave this as a static cam if you want to leave a comment. And hey, Randy, how's it going, buddy? Thank you for dropping by. I'm about probably 30 minutes from north of Tallahassee, Florida. Hey, Mary. I was telling everybody if they could just didn't want to interrupt your stream. I kind of started it completely by accident. Sorry about that, Mary. Good to see everybody coming in. It makes me feel a lot better knowing that you guys are here. But I'll be honest with you, I'm scared. They're forecasting 80-mile-per-hour winds to come in here. I went up and checked with my neighbor, and he sent his wife to a friend. She's been battling cancer, but she's a strong woman and determined. So he's doing okay. That was a good little gust up to 14 miles per hour. Hey, John G, what's up, buddy? Like I said, I'll be making some more mods. Don't worry, y'all. Steve shows up, Mary, I'll make him a mod. I'm just gonna have like two of them for now, I guess. Cause right now this is my first live stream, so in reality on the desktop on my gaming computer, and you see the ADT sign up. I had it, but I couldn't afford it, so I had to quit it, resign from that service, terminate the service, I guess is the word I'm groping for. I'll see you later, Jen. I appreciate you coming by. That meant a lot. And I'll get better at this live streaming. I'm not a pro like Mary and Steve are, and Alex and Eric. But I'm learning. Oh, and Dumpster Dad and Kim, they good at this stuff too. Just letting a few others know about it. I am not ignoring y'all. You know I wouldn't do that. But I'm gonna try and find something here to put some sound with this while I'm take care of a couple of things. Thank you, Angie. It just popped up that you subscribed. I got to take my headphones off for just a second. Don't know if Angie is in here, but Angie Rotting Doll just subbed to my channel. John, I appreciate you more than you know. All of you guys are special. That's a good gust, wind gust right there. Oh. I don't think I'm too worried about most of the trees around the house. Trying to see 10:09 a.m. Eastern time here. Where you saw that truck just go by, that's where I have to go to get something out of my mailbox. My fat ass ain't gonna walk up there, that's for sure. What the fuck is that? Is that a kitten going across my yard? That's what it looked like. Y'all, we have had a cat problem right here with us. I don't know if you can see it, but do y'all see that trailer up there? Y'all probably can't see that. Let me fix it in just a second. Be right back. Y'all can probably see that trailer now. That's my only neighbor. And a good neighbor. We look out for each other. I keep an eye on their house when they're gone, and they keep an eye on me down here. And if I haven't moved my car around in a few days, his name is Perry. Mr. Perry will come down and check on me. Hey, Angie, I know, but you just showing up and subbing to my page meant so much to me. Thank you. I'm going to try to stay safe. I'm a little bit worried right now. We got the Epic Wolfpack fam watching over me as long as they can. Now, I know you guys have a life. It ain't as fortunate as me and get paid to stay at home. But I guess I need to go out there in this mess and get my phone. But I shall be right back. If y'all don't mind to hang on just a few minutes, it won't take me long. All right, I'm back, but I'm gonna mute it for a second, and gonna. I got Alex, John. Gonna look into it. It might have been something that I should have done before I started the live stream. I'm thinking maybe that I should have done it before I started the live stream. I'm gonna let y'all listen to the Weather Channel while I'm trying to work on this.
The water's edge for just a moment. Jacques Stars, the
Let
man
me know
behind the
if you
camera.
can hear
Jacques,
that.
yeah, that's a good spot, dude. I'm going to step down here. Again, thanks so much to Mr. Peak. All right, gang, I want you to look at this. I promise you, there was a time when we were out here about 48 hours ago, this beach was covered with umbrellas. It was kind of a celebratory mood. You had people here on their fall break from many states. We've had people from Ohio, from Texas, from Tennessee, from all over. And that is certainly a vacation that was cut short, obviously, because what is coming in for the time being. They moved out, this comes in. I will not be able to stand in this spot as we roll forward over the next, I'd say, hour or two, because we're going to see more of this come on in. But it is an unbelievable change. I've been doing this for 25 years. And what I'm seeing here, it's always mind-numbing. It's humbling to see the power of Mother Nature when she flexes her muscles and can unleash just such fury. Amazing. Now, if you've been following the story over the last several days and weeks, you'll remember that at one point Matthew was nothing. It was just a cluster of clouds out in the tropics, but it rolled and billed, and now it is an atmospheric buzzsaw that is bound for our shorelines. It's not something that any of us asked for, but sure enough, it's not the fight of our choosing, but it is certainly going to be coming on in. Look at this. Just one after another, just a continuous mesmerizing cascade that just roars its way onto the shorelines. Now, the problem that we have from what we happen to be, let's bring in Jen for just a moment. Jen, I understand that right now you're starting to get some of the heavy rainfall in Tallahassee. I'm sure there's quite a bit of fear, Jen, with that soil getting soaked, those heavy trees, the strong winds. That could be a pretty bad combination.
Yeah, power outages are the main concern here, but it's not just trees coming down and causing power outages, Reynolds. Another big concern is trees coming down and causing significant damage on vehicles, on homes, and so that's why people are really urged to take this seriously. You know, hunker down, and when we get in the worst of the winds, we'll be later this afternoon. We are certainly asking people to stay into their safe place, their shelter for the duration of the storm. This is not going to be the kind of event where you can go out in. And even right now, because we are literally miles away here in downtown Tallahassee from getting into that outer band, so the rain is really going to pick up, the visibility is going to go down, the wind is going to start to get very gusty as well. We've seen those wind gusts farther south here as high as 60 miles per hour earlier today on St. George Island. They were up into the 50s around Apalachicola. Let's show you a live look around Indian Pass right now, and we can show you that water rise that we are continuing to be concerned about. You know, watching some of the scenes from this area, the water's coming up. It's overtaking boat ramps in the area. And by the way, this is all happening at a time when the tide is going out. We are heading towards a high tide by this afternoon at the worst case timing. We've got the landfall of a historic storm at the time of high tide that is going to cause mass destruction. We will have continuing coverage right here on the Weather Channel.
Hey, Laurie. Welcome back. On my screen, it's buffering bad on the trees. Might hear Tubby wanting to growl and play. Sorry, Brian. Oh, probably 90 miles inland, maybe. Just guessing.
Michael on the Weather Channel. This is hurricane coverage you can trust. I'm meteorologist Chris Warren in Apalachicola, one of the outer bands of Hurricane Michael right here. Some of the strongest we've seen so far. And due west right now, the eye wall of Hurricane Michael, this powerful Category 4 hurricane with winds at 150 miles an hour, is now moving on shore. So we're starting to see some of the impacts, some of the strongest winds associated, the worst part of this storm moving now just west of where I am.
Okay, they just said it's just now moving on shore.
We have seen so far. We're under cover right now, but still the winds are blowing so much that this rain is still getting in here. The reason we're under cover is because we can't go down here. We're not going to go into the flood water. This is essentially the Apalachicola River that is now moving into downtown Apalachicola. This is Water Street. We're seeing debris floating by, logs. We've been seeing a lot of branches, trash cans, trash bags, all sorts of stuff floating through.
I'm really surprised that the power hadn't went out yet.
Winds is what we've been seeing. And this is still some of the outer bands of Hurricane Michael as the eye wall is now pushing on shore here, expecting in some areas devastating impacts from this massive and potentially destructive hurricane that we're looking at right now. And right now we want to go to and we also have
God damn, Chris.
both are standing. We want to go right now and get the latest
I needed that laugh.
Guys, what's going on?
Hey, Chris, while I do this, okay, I want Lisa back in the studio.
No, the dog's starting to freak out.
Get the base velocity on the Eglin Air Force Base radar ready. I want to show you what is just offshore of Mexico Beach right now.
The little one's wanting to get in my lap, so I had to put him in the lap.
All right, guys, here we go. Looking around, you can see what's going on. Palms are swaying. We're not into the worst of this yet, but you can certainly see and hear at times, the aluminum fascia flashing around. We've had some pretty heavy rain here. Steph's caught some power flashes as well. I hear the generator on in the hotel, so kind of your typical getting into that.
Damn, Brian.
I want to show you this. All right, here you go, guys. What we're going to query is about 4,200 feet up. But look at the winds there. Now, I got a spot that shows about 177 miles an hour just offshore in Mexico Beach. All right? So that's all happening in addition to the surge that's getting ready to come in there. So you're going to deal with, destructive wind power, not to mention storms.
I think the Weather Channel blows a lot of this shit out of proportion, to be honest with you. They get people so worked up.
You go back 2 days. This place is covered with about 125,000 visitors. Panama City itself has about 180,000 people that live here. All right, a lot of those people have been asked to evacuate. The evacuation zones A, B, and C, all right, were the ones that asked to evacuate. Plus, you had 125,000 on fall break. So they're gone. One of the things, Brad, step out here for a second. I did want to just kind of show you guys, because there was a lot of questions on social media. Yeah, actually, we're not going to be able to see it from this angle. Anyway, I'll just tell you, all right? So here's the deal. One of the questions you were asking a lot about in social media was, what's going on with those cranes? There's a lot of cranes. Panama City is up and booming. And as a matter of fact, they're fine. Right now, they're fine. But we haven't gotten into the worst of this weather yet. All right? Hey, Abrams, let me bring you in here. I want to ask you about those cranes that are down the street a little bit. How are those fair? Yeah, I might as well just point to you. No, we're going to do it on your camera. I was going to ask you about those. I was just
You two are something else.
we were going to ask you about those cranes because they're in your shot.
Right. So I have not.
I'm not getting you ain't dragging me in the middle of this one.
Yeah. Those cranes while we're talking about them, and you see how tall they
Just take
are.
Steph's camera, whichever one.
Yeah, or our camera. We can have Mark turn around there.
Hey, Mark, turn around and show the cranes.
He's got it.
Thanks, buddy.
They haven't moved an inch. They literally have not budged, Jim. So that just shows you that they know how to, secure these things.
I mean, what's interesting about them is I think they take about 125 mile an hour in terms of winds. Okay, but we may see higher gusts than that. It looks like we're going to get the western eye wall, right? You and I just looked at the radar.
It's going to be close. So we're not going to get right into the thick of the eye wall.
You talking about Jim Cantori?
Right now, we're not even in the eye wall here.
Right.
We're not in that western eye wall.
Right. So
He does a little bit.
I don't think people are aware. It literally will turn on like
that. Yep.
And it's going to come in like a tornado. We've been talking about that. So should we get it?
Yeah.
Then we'll deal with those incredibly destructive winds. But right now, so far so good.
But this is the time when you're going to start to see little pieces of debris loosen. Those are going to fly into things.
You can hear the aluminum.
You can hear it. You hear it. And then for those that are going through the eye wall, the worst of the weather, it's going to loosen the stuff the first round, and then you get in the second eye wall, and then that's when things are really going to get bad.
Right. So, literally we're talking within the hour, probably for, an hour's worth of time, and we'll see how that goes around here. But, obviously we're gonna hunker down as it comes on in.
I know you are, buddy.
I don't think we'll get in the eye, though.
I needed that laugh.
Go a little east of us, Panama City, maybe
right
over to
over
Mexico
downtown Panama
Beach.
City.
We will see. We're going to be right back here. We do have a safe place to go, by the way, everyone.
Yes, we do.
I had to mute the mic and get on to my dog. What the hell are y'all talking about? I didn't watch it. Is it the Hobbit Cootie scene or the Hobbit Cootie syndrome, Brian and Chris? Yeah, I'm glad y'all came on here and gave me a fucking laugh. I need it. Okay, does when the trolls captured them, or was that the unexpected journey? They say they are riddled with parasites to keep them from being eaten. Okay, then. Sounds like an excuse to cover up for the cooties to me. Brian, that might just be a government conspiracy theory with hobbits called the Cootie syndrome.
You can see all that aluminum fascia has come loose. It is definitely torn. There is air getting in there. It was interesting too because we were over trying to reset our live view in those halls there on the left where you see the stairwells, and the wind going through there literally knocked my beefy producer off his feet and onto his keister. So it's really howling up and through there, and I wouldn't be surprised at all, obviously, if the wind's getting under that roof and tearing it apart. So when we get some of the worst of the wind, which will come, by the way, from the street and back out over the ocean, it'll be interesting to see if that roof holds. All right, but this is some of the kind of damage that we're seeing. Again, as I mentioned, the cranes are holding well here on First Street. No apparent signs of any kind of flooding. We've seen some power flashes on some of the transformers. But all in all, again, I don't think we've gotten, certainly by looking at the radar, into the worst part of the eye wall. But I'll tell you, if you're just joining us, we showed the radar velocity. We showed the base velocity, the wind, 177 miles an hour at 4,000 feet up. And that can easily be transported down with the energy of this hurricane as it comes ashore. So we have not gotten into the worst of it here at Panama City Beach or downtown Panama City. But Mexico Beach, this area is just about to get absolutely hammered. And that's where that strongest wind was. Occasionally, the wind whistles down the beach, whistles right on through, tries to knock you off your feet, but then it goes away pretty quickly. So that's what we're dealing with now. Down the road, let's go about 65 miles off to my southeast. That's where we find Chris Warren. Chris has already seen the water rise. There goes a piece of the roof. Brad on the left side. All right, so we just lost a piece of this roof. All right, Chris. If anything else happens here, obviously we'll come back. But the roof is definitely trying to go here on this Flamingo Hotel. Let's take it back down to Apalachicola and talk about the storm surge, which has come up. It's already record-setting where you are. Last I checked, it was 7 feet. Could be even higher than that. That was about an hour and a half ago, buddy.
Yeah, it likely is higher than that right now, Jim. We've been watching this steadily rise. In fact, looking right now, we're losing another step. Almost every half an hour to an hour, we lose another step where we are right now. We're somewhat sheltered. We're underneath a covered area. There's a brick building beside us, blocking a lot of the wind. Wind that is now some of the most intense that we've seen. Some of the outer bands of Hurricane Michael showing what it can do here in Apalachicola. This is Water Street, and we've been watching the water from the Apalachicola River coming in, and it's been interesting to see how the water has been behaving, if you will, or what the wind has been doing to this. Very erratic, and every once in a while you see these waves come in. Before it was just like a steady rise, and you see this, it's almost like you have these waves that are breaking at what was a dry park last night and early this morning. No longer. We're seeing essentially breakers. They're small, but they're breakers coming in on top of this surge that we are seeing right here with more and more debris, like right here. It looks like a part of a fence is now washing down here on Water Street. And look at this. Oh boy. I don't know how well you can see. Hey, I don't know if you can get this. It looks like a power line has just come down. It looks like the power line that would go across the street to a residence or a business. Overhead, we have power lines, but these are the huge metal poles. I'm going to be watching those very closely, but we do not have power where we are right now. But you can see now right across Water Street there. Do you hear that? I'm hearing something. Hearing like a rumbling of some sort here. But we're starting to see a little bit more damage. With more debris coming down in the water here on Water Street. Power lines are now down. I think what I'm hearing is maybe some debris hitting up against the side of a building or a side of a structure here. And with these waves coming in, that's right, waves coming in over Water Street, you can see the tops of the waves being blown off by the strong winds that are making its way through downtown Apalachicola. And it looks like we have some trees that are now bending over with power lines down across what is a very flooded street with surge coming and some of the strongest winds still coming out of the south to southeasterly direction here. And it looks like and it feels like we are right on the ocean. The only difference is we're on solid ground here. We're on some brick. In fact, take a look right here. That's wow, look at this. So that's piece of debris that just came up, and these winds are just crushing right now, really taking the brunt of one of these outer bands from Hurricane Michael here in Apalachicola. And again, did notice that there is some power lines down. It looks like we have some trees down. There are some trees down there as well, or at least bending over, broken. And just looking at this right here, and we're pretty well protected here. There's this solid structure, about 13-foot ceiling here. And looking around, there's this big bush. There's like 3 of them, so it's pretty well protected from the strong winds, which you can see right over there. Absolutely howling with these waves that I think are rather remarkable here. Waves now coming over the park and over Water Street, and then the winds, some of the strongest winds that we've seen so far from Hurricane Michael and its outer bands as the storm is getting ever so much closer to making landfall, and a lot of debris in the streets as well. Boards, which we don't know where those boards came from, whether they were lumber or they were in someone's backyard or they were part of a dock. We just don't know what that was, but we are certainly seeing the power of this storm, both with the wind and the water, what the water is doing. In fact, we can go back over here, and I want to show you over here what we were looking at yesterday was that floating dock. Do you see it right there? Do you see the metal, that metal railing? That is actually going in the opposite direction. Yesterday, we were able to walk down it in the other direction. So you can see just how much the water has come up, and that floating dock doing what it's supposed to do. It's gone up on the pilings, but the metal railing and the metal walkway is they completely upended here with this water that is still pushing onshore, still getting higher here. And we're looking at record surge, a possibility in Apalachicola, as we are seeing more and more of this. Wow, these winds are just going nuts here. I want to go Stephanie Abrams, who is just to the west of where I am, closer to the inner core of this storm. And Stephanie, what's it been like for you as far as the consistency of the winds? I mean, it has been going pretty much all day long here in Apalachicola.
So here's the thing, it has gotten a lot worse just recently, and I'm looking at the radar on my phone. That's what I'm looking at here, okay? And we are just to the west of the core of this. By the way, it is coming on shore right now. We are going to see a Category 4 landfall in the month of October in the Panhandle of Florida. We have never had a Category 4 make landfall in the Panhandle, let alone a Category 4 in the month of October. We haven't seen that anywhere in the U.S. since 1954. So these are our winds. You see, we get that gusts coming through like this, and we are not even in the eye wall. Let me tell you, Panama City, Florida is about to get crushed from this. They are in some of the worst wind as this rotates in. Mexico Beach on the east side, the east eye wall. It looks like we're going to stay just outside the worst of the wind. So when you're watching us, know that we are not in the worst that this has to offer. We are just outside of that. So all of this weather that you're seeing here, the roof starting to tear off, the trees, the wind, the rain, the howling, this is nothing compared to what we're seeing in the eye wall. And I'm watching this thing right now. It's just incredible to see a Category 4 making landfall not only in this area, but during the month of October, something we have never seen. This is a historic hurricane, and I can only imagine the name is going to be retired. But right now, the lightning, I don't know in the radar they're going to show you. The fact that we're seeing lightning around the eye wall of this hurricane just gives you an idea of how intense it is. It's not something you see every day. You hear that wind howling? You don't always see lightning right around. That means this thing's got juice. If this had more water, if this had more time, then it probably could have gotten up to that Category 5 strength. By the way, we've only had 3 to make landfall in U.S. history, okay? The last Category 4, last year we had Harvey and Irma. Before that, you got to go back to Charlie in 2004. So the fact that we are seeing a Category 4, it's rare to see them make landfall. We don't see it all the time. And in this area is just historic. But again, what's going to happen? For those of you in Panama City, unfortunately, it looks like you're going to stay in that eye wall the entire time. We're Panama City Beach, just to the west of Panama City, all right? So Panama City is going to be in the worst of that western eye wall. And also to the east of there, Mexico Beach is in that eastern eye wall. The points in between that, you're going to get the eye, that center of circulation. And let me tell you, you go through the eye wall, then all of a sudden it's going to be clear. You're going to be standing. You might be able to see up and see, you know, the blue skies. Then you're going to get the back eye wall. So do not let that ever fool you. All right, once you get that first eye wall to go through, you get the clearing, and then you get that second eye wall to go through. But just tremendous. The winds that we're seeing already sustained around Port St. Joe, around 78 miles an hour sustained, gusting to 116 miles per hour. And again, then you have that push of water as well. Everywhere to the east of this, we're going to continue to see that push of water. See, there you go. Chris was asking me about the winds. It's those types of winds that kind of pick you up off your feet a little bit, and then you catch your ground as well. Then you get kind of this consistent blowing. Then you get another gust that's going to come in. Now, we're right on the highway that runs along the beach with all of these, you know, buildings and resorts. And then the beach is just on the other